This is For Advisors by Advisors. I'm your host, Evan J. Mayer. And today we have a special guest, a friend of mine from my old days at SunTrust. He was actually at SunTrust twice, if I'm not mistaken. This is Mac Gardner, everybody. Round of applause.
Thanks for having me, Evan.
Love the applause. Mac is the founder and CEO of FinLit Tech. He's a public speaker, accomplished author. He wrote 2 books so far, Motivate Your Money and The 4 Money Bears. 4 Money Bears is phenomenal for your kids. I got my copy too, and mine is actually made out to my daughter, which is awesome. So, and Mac has a wide range of knowledge on many topics, expertise, specifically in financial planning, insurance planning. Funny story of how I met you, Mac. We were at SunTrust, and you came on stage, and they're like, they'd hired this whole insurance group, right? And they were like, okay, as an advisor, you're like, yeah, I want to do insurance. And for me, I do a lot of insurance policies, but you don't want anything crammed down your throat that you don't want to do. And you came on stage, and your speaking ability was amazing. And I was like, this guy's real. He's good. And I remember calling you, and I wasn't sure what you did. And I was like, hey, Mac, I got some insurance I need to do. What do I do?
What do I do?
Yeah. And what I realized is your job was to punch holes in everything I was doing to see if there was a better way. And I thought that basically was what you were there to do. And it was interesting because as I got to know you a little bit, and working with the other insurance, person there that I was working with, I would run into you, and I still remember in Fort Lauderdale, you were in a back conference room. You were talking to some guys. I walk up, and you go, Evan, what are you still doing here?
Like, why are you here, brother?
and I think it was a year and a half later, I was independent. I took the practice, and I said to you at the time, I got to keep growing assets. And you go, you got plenty of assets. You're ready to go. And you could have been more right. So,
what I remember from that interaction, Evan, is there are people in this business. I've been blessed. I've been in the business for 20 plus years, CFP, CWS, a bunch of letters at the end of my name. I used to be an advanced markets wholesaler. And so I've seen good advisors, and I've seen really good advisors. And in my mind, you were almost a fish out of water, because in this new capacity that you have as an independent advisor, you can grow to whatever space or size you want, man. And so I'm glad that not far or not long after that conversation, you took the step. 3 years later, doing awesome things, brother. So great to be here.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, and I don't want to poo-poo the bank channel, because the bank channel was a blessing for me. It was a great way to bring assets over for a guy that, doesn't like to start that initial conversation. So it was a good place. But you're right. You leave, you end up accruing more assets, and when you have the freedom to express yourself and be creative, you can do a lot more. So that was great. Mac, give us a quick brief history of who you are. I'm going to kind of dive into a little bit of things I know you're doing, but today, kind of your back history, and how you started in the business, and then how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm one of those fortunate souls. People ask, Mac, how'd you get into financial planning or the wealth management or financial services? And interestingly enough, my dad got his MBA, went to Howard as undergrad, got his MBA from NYU. And my dad was in banking for a long time. And I remember watching Dad come home with a suit and tie and the suitcase, and he worked for Dime Savings Bank in New York. So I don't know if you have any New Yorkers that listen to or watch your show, but I remember having conversation about assets, liabilities, income, expenses when I was a really young kid, and understanding leverage and all that stuff. So for me, I guess I was blessed. I was fortunate. Went to University of Maryland and started my retail career in the mid 90s. And then, did a little bit of retail. Then I went to trust administration. Then I did commercial and corporate lending. Then I did corporate 401k plans and advanced markets wholesaling. So I've been really blessed, Evan, to have worn a lot of hats in this industry. And what that did was it allowed me when I decided to start my own practice, to start looking at what was really going on with my clients. And one of the sad things about it, and you can attest to this, Evan, is we serve a lot of clients, great clients, but they're not very financially literate. And so that's when I started writing my books. My first book, Motivate Your Money, and then my second book, The Four Money Bears. So there's a little bit of background about me and why I decided to start writing.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think when people ask me what I'm passionate about teaching and teaching clients, and that's the fun part, because you can actually start from scratch and remold their thoughts. And there's some clients that you have come in that are extremely savvy, and you can kind of help mold them, and that's awesome. So I mean, the Four Money Bears, let's hop into this for one quick second, because I think this was great, by the way. And matter of fact, a true story about how I got this book from you. And for those of you that don't have it, go out and buy it. Where can you get it? Amazon?
Like everything, brother. You can get on Amazon. You can get both books on Amazon if you choose.
It's a great book for kids. First thing was I wanted to do something beneficial for the schools, and every time I kept going to the schools, they said, well, you can start by donating. And I was like, well, I really would like to teach. And I think they had thought I had, a conflict of interest in the concept that I was looking to recruit. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I'd like to educate kids, though, in middle school and high school, how to do money. And Max said, well, I can get you started, because I got an elementary book that you can use right away for, kids in first grade, second grade, third grade. And I read this to my kids. It's a great book. The only part I told them to be hesitant on was the giving bearer, to not give too generously. There might be a religious element in that. And I was like, look, you want to give, but don't give too much.
Don't give it. And which is part of the story, or understanding that balance. But yeah, Evan, I remember when you reached out, and, again, you're very passionate about what you do and want to help people. And you said, Mac, I think this could work. And I was super happy to hear that it's a tool and resource that you can use. And just a quick story about how the book came to be.
Yeah.
The first book, Motivate Your Money, I wrote for adults. It took me 4 years just to utilize and capture sort of all the different experiences I had in the industry, and package what I call my Mac nuggets, my little ways of simplifying things for clients, making stuff easy to understand. And one of my clients came to me, was like, Mac, I love the first book. Would you be open to writing something for kids? And so in my first book, I talk about the 5 steps to financial success. Plan accordingly, got to have a plan. Spend cautiously, save diligently, invest wisely, and give generously. So in our home, Evan, I'm Papa Bear, my wife is Mama Bear, and our kids are the baby bears. So I was able to just take elements from the first book. There's only 4 things you can do with money, right? Spend it, save it, invest, or to give it away.
Yep.
And turn them into bears. But the book is literally the story of me teaching my kids that every time we go to the store, we're not just going to buy your stuff. You need to realize that you have other options besides blowing your money. And so 5-6 years later, I'm honored to say that we have global book sales. I mean, we have folks that buy our book, England, Germany, France. I just did a podcast for an advisor in South Africa, Canada, the Caribbean, India. So, and what it goes to show you, and you already know this, Evan, that financial literacy isn't just a U.S. thing, American thing. It's a global concern, and the earlier we can start teaching our kids, the better.
It's absolutely phenomenal. Have you gotten to break into the school boards? Has that been a little bit of a challenge so far?
Okay. Yes. So here's what happened. When I first published the book, I sent a copy of our book to 30 state school boards. The process, brother, to get a book into a public school is mind-numbingly difficult. But here's what we found. I would go to my kids' schools and see the children are learning digitally. They're learning on these things. They're learning on their phones. They're learning on iPads.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, the book is a great start. Book is a good tool. Kids still read books, parents still read books with their kiddos, but we need to develop a digital platform. And that's actually how FinLit Tech started, was to really create that bridge between financial literacy and financial technology when it comes to teaching people about money.
So tell us about FinLit. What I mean, what you talked a little bit about some of the consulting you were doing with me earlier, but definitely interested in what you guys are doing.
So FinLit Tech started because a few years ago, somebody put a copy of our book on the desk of eMoney CEO. Ed O'Brien was the CEO at the time. He's back at Fidelity now. And Ed reached out and said, "Hey, Mac, look, love what you're doing with financial literacy. Love the fact that you're starting it as early as, kindergarten, age 5, 6, 7. Would I be open to coming to the conferences and speaking to advisors about the importance of financial literacy and how to incorporate that into their practices?" And when the CEO of one of the largest fintech companies that deals with financial planning reaches out and says, "Hey, we'd like to do some stuff with you," you say, "Okay," you accommodate the request. And
Yes.
so that's how it started. So that's really how advisors across the country started utilizing our book. And then that's when we started working in partnership to find and develop ways through FinLit Tech as my consulting company initially, to really look at ways to find digital solutions. Because here's the thing, Evan, there's a bunch of tech out there
Yep.
to help you do stuff with your money, banking, investing, insurance, but there's not a lot of tech out there to help teach you what to do with your money.
Yep.
And that's the space we're really looking to impact.
Phenomenal. And my guess is as an advisor, first step, pick up a copy, go through it with your kids, and then see how maybe it could impact the families you're working with, and get your clients' kids off to the right start.
Yeah, and one of the things from the conferences that we did with eMoney that we found out was there are quite a few advisors out there that view financial literacy education as a great way to grow their practices. And I personally, my heart of hearts, Evan, and you know this, I believe that as advisors, we are some of the best people in our communities to really promote this space and really get people, people educated. So if you're an advisor, it's a great way to have a tool or resource to differentiate yourself. Heard a great quote from someone who said, "If you take care of a client, they're thankful. If you take care of their child, they're forever grateful." So if there's a way for you to connect with that next generation, go for it.
Phenomenal. And as far as advisors, just kind of hopping into that topic a little bit, what this is obviously a great practice. What do you see the big difference between advisors that are doing it and advisors that are not? Like, what's the key element? It's not just personality. Personality is important. Relationship building is important. But what makes the best the best?
The folks that see, I was at a conference one time, and I wish I remember which firm this gentleman was from, but he made a great statement. He calls it the 3 M's of our industry. He says, "Do you know money?" Of course, everyone should know money. We work for financial institutions, investments, what a stock, a bond is. Okay, you know money. Okay. Do you know me? Meaning, do you know the client? Do you know their whole situation? Do you know their family? But the 3rd M was, do you know more? Like, what more can you give me that differentiates you from the other person that's across the street or going down there? So in my mind, the advisors that are really, really good, that are really, really great, are the ones that utilize tools and technologies and resources to get to that more. And that more is an actual vested interest in not just the people that are standing or sitting in front of you when you're having that meeting, but potentially generations down the road. Imagine that advisor who's sitting down with a client, and maybe their grandparents, and they say, "Hey, you know what? I don't care about not just you and the money they're helping for you, but I care so much that I want your grandkids to be smart with your money."
Yeah,
That's powerful stuff, man.
it is, and I think that this podcast specifically is empowerment of advisors, and how do we get better at our practices. And we've all heard financial planning is the way you need to go. This is the way you need to structure your business. And I think that the best advisors are the ones that clients truly believe that they care about them, and know more, and know more about it, and know how to get there. And you're right, technology is bringing us to such a great spot. Evolution in this business has been key. 3 years ago, I remember when I was at the banks, they didn't have some of the software out there that could capture risk tolerance, like, Riskalyze or some of these cool, cool tools that are out there. And now they're out there. And are you picking them up? And if you're not, how do you press on your firm to pick it up if you're working for somebody? If you're independent, then obviously, life's a lot easier in that concept. But where do you see innovation coming in? It's funny. I was we correlate to our back experiences. I remember I was at my previous firm, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, and they were going, the wave of the future for financial planning is that there is robo-advisors. They're not going to work with financial advisors anymore. And then they kind of change their tune, and they go, we didn't mean that. They're going to meet with financial advisors, but there's a subset that don't want to meet with financial advisors. And I said, well, maybe in their 20s and 30s, but clients that come into their 40s, 50s, 60s are going to want somebody to speak to regarding this. But maybe you do disagree. Where do you see financial planning going in the future?
I love that question. Shameless plug. Advice Tech Live, for your audience who may be listening and want to know about technology. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Asset Map, or Adam Holt, who's the CEO of Asset Map. Great guy. He's put together this event called Advice Tech Live. It's going to be in September. But your words, Evan, about how our industry is evolving and shaping and how quickly it's happening is so true. I got my licenses back in the late 90s. And I remember when you wrote an annuity contract, it was 3-ply paper, and you had to press hard, to make sure that back office.
And you better not rip that contract up, because if you did, you got to go back to your client.
You're done. And so it's amazing. And so if you're an advisor that understands that technology is your friend, right? And if you utilize it in a good way, it can really, really help your clients. So here's how I envision what I'm seeing, because what we do at FinLit Tech is we work with quite a few firms in the space to provide guidance on financial wellness. And one project that we were working with eMoney on was a platform called Incentive. And Incentive is actually a individual based app. It's financial planning 101. Because to your point, if you're in your 20s, you're starting off your career, you may not have significant assets to necessarily validate a fee that a financial wealth manager, financial advisor will need to charge to keep you as a client, depending on the model. You're going to still need resources, right? And so technology is being created and being developed to be able to bring financial planning in some scale to wherever that person is. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the proliferation greatly in our industry.
It's funny, as I'm listening to you talk, and I'm thinking about how I met you and where I met you, and I'm looking at myself, and you're now a CEO of your own company. I'm a CEO of my company. Do the firms how are firms holding on to talent, and where do we think that how does the financial planning landscape change? I mean, obviously banking. I came from the bank channel. I know you were in banking, but you were also in Wirehouse channel too, right? At points, and there's the Wirehouse channel and the insurance channel. It's fun. It's funny to see how each of the firms is changing their models, and how those models are kind of, the talent is somewhat leaving in some capacity and going independent and going into these spaces. It's almost like a revolution in our business. Do you see the same?
Bro, 5 years ago, when you were in that bank channel, could you do what you're doing now?
No,
you couldn't.
No,
you couldn't. So technology is what do they call what happens when an immovable force hits an object that can. So it's one of the technology is changing everything. All right, and the firms that acknowledge and realize that, we need to make sure that this thing is working for us, so that one, we can keep our lights on and retain assets, and two, another point that you just brought up, retain and attract quality advisors. Our industry is going through a really, really tough time, there are more advisors, I think more CFPs north of 65, Evan, than they are younger than 35 or something. I think that was the last statistic I heard. And it's shocking. The industry has not done the best job in getting young people into this business. And so when you have all these folks retiring, but you have technology that's allowing folks to be able to scale their practice and do really neat things, it's the smart ones and the ones that as you said, adopt this technology and are not afraid to change. They're the ones that are going to be in a great position to service their clients, no matter what the size of the asset, the size of the portfolio that they're interacting with.
And you know, it's interesting. It's probably a lot of the fintech companies, such as yourself. You know, we talked to Riskalyze, there's Simon, there's InvestNet. You know, these companies can create such ecosystems and connect with the firms that maybe the advisors can get that technology and which firms adapt. So it's going to be interesting to see what firms come out on top and what don't. And it's funny, you know, leadership change. I think the number one thing is that when they do get an innovative leader, they stick to it for a little bit, and then the shareholders need to see the money, and it's like, all right, well, where are we now? Let's change course. Let's get rid of management. Let's move them all around again. So it becomes a shuffling show, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then we talk about the whole RIA model too, and how that's changed, and how that's moving a lot of things where folks who were not necessarily, you know, focusing on that type of model, they are now, because the RIA space is exploding, and you have a lot of scale in there. You have a lot of ability for folks to go in there and look at assets and be like, okay, if we can look at a streamlined revenue play here, as opposed to some of the other older models. I think that's why RIAs are growing, and you're seeing a lot of proliferation of technology from these RIA firms here in
Hugely.
Tampa. Yeah, Dynasty Financial is one of them that's doing a lot of really, really good things in that space. So yeah, the technology side is a really cool space to be in. Glad to say that, you know, we have a foot on the fintech side as well as a foot on the financial services side, and really awesome to see how things are developing.
Excellent, excellent. Is there anything I didn't ask that you would say, you know, the one of the things on this call that I really wanted to get a point, and other than talk with your friend, which is always fun, and that's the way podcasts should be, in my opinion, right? You know, sometimes they're too question and answer related and not, you know. Is there anything that you think the audience should really truly know, either about you, your company, or on change to embrace anything, anything there?
Yeah. So one of the things that we often get asked, not sure if because I am a Black male that's in this business, we were recently awarded, Investment News awarded me an award for diversity, equity, and inclusion, a CFP role model, for the work that we're doing through the For Money Bears to get more financial education to underserved, overlooked communities. And I know you, when you're
That's
out there
awesome,
talking to
man.
schools.
By the
Yeah,
way,
thank you.
congratulations. I'm giving you I'm going to give you my real applause, actually.
Thank
No
you.
fake
Thank
applause
you.
here.
Thank you. Thank you. But that's stuff that I wish more advisors really would be able to look at and focus on, is to utilize resources. Because here's my thought process. All we are, Evan, at the end of our day is a collection of stories. Literally all we are.
Yep.
Our kids are going to get the stories about what's a stock, what's a bond, what's a 401k, all these neat tools to help grow wealth and perpetuate wealth. 90% of children out there won't ever get that. They won't ever get that story, won't ever get that message. So why not utilize tools and technology to help grow that knowledge in communities? Because I think personally, I would rather have a more educated consumer come into my door that understands, okay, look, I've started my investment portfolio from when I was 7 years old because my mom and dad read this book to me called The For Money Bears, and we started investing and giving and all that stuff. I would love to have someone in their late teens, early 20s, after they're done with school, come into my office and say, hey, I already have the foundation. I know the importance of this. I now need you to help give me that guidance to get down the road. So that's the one thing I would love for more advisors to say and look at, is how the technology can really expand a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive focus on our business, and give our business a much better name, man. Because sadly, the advisory business just doesn't have that. So we're building tools.
Yeah, you're 110% right. You got two things that you brought to my mind is that there are no more. Well, there shouldn't be any more brokers in our business. There's still a lot of brokers in our business, and you know, they don't need us for that anymore. It's everything else that they do, and you know, and look, I'm not going to lie to you. I probably sent somewhere between 50 to 100 emails to superintendents and principals trying to say, hey, this is like something I'm willing to donate my time to. And so the school board in a lot of ways has got to change their thoughts on how they educate, because you're right. Like my kids are going to know about money. Your kids are going to know about money. And our clients' kids are now going to know about money, which is an excellent thing. But how do we keep paying that forward and you know, expand that? And you're right. I mean, when you get a client in your office that understands investments and then you get to hop right into the fun stuff, that's where our alpha is. That's where our bread and butter is, and that's where we want to be. So so Mac, first and foremost, how does everybody get a hold of you?
So you can find more information about what we're doing through a couple of sites. So the main one is the4moneybears.com. So that's www.the4 it's spelled out moneybears.com. You can actually download the demo of our new app that we're developing, the 4 Money Bears Berryville. Kick the tires, give some feedback, what you like and what you like to see in the game.
What's that name on the App Store?
It's called Berryville. It's called the 4 Money Bears Berryville.
Berryville. Cool.
Yeah. So you can do that, Apple and Android, or through FinLit Tech. You can learn about what we're doing with financial literacy and financial technology and the path we're paving for that space at www.finlittech.com. So those are the best ways to find out more about us and get involved in our mission to teach kids money and just bring more financial wellness to more people.
I'm excited to be on this call with you, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm gonna speak to you after this call, as a matter of fact, too. But you know, you're an inspiration. Your passion feeds through in what you say. It's not words. There's passion, and that's what our business lacks. So Mac, thanks for coming on. For advisors out there, Mac is a great guy. This book, no brainer. The first book's a no brainer, but my kids like started implementing this, and there is actually pages at the end that allows them to track that. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's there anyway.
Yeah, we got worksheets in the book, and we have a budget. Every book has that to have some interactivity with it. And as I like to say, Evan, you know, the financial life journey is a long one, and your clients and other advisors out there that listen to this are blessed to have someone in their life on this journey, and the journey continues.
Absolutely, and that, I believe that's your signature line, isn't it?
It's true. It's fact. The journey continues, man.
It's fact. I love it. I love it. Advisors, you guys, or anybody listening to this for that matter, you can follow us on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Please leave responses or replies. We'd love to hear feedback. If there's any questions for Mac, you can email me directly at info@fortunawealth.com. Be happy to try to get you the answer. You know, again, tune in for our show. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Many more to come. And again, look forward to talking to you soon.